Hello everyone, my name is Holden Hardman, and today we're doing a deep dive into one of the biggest shows of the last decade, The Walking Dead. Now this video is not a comprehensive review, like deep dive into every single season, but it's based on my systematic watch through of about 25% through season 9, where I'm filming this right now. I've compiled my notes on each season. We're going to talk about the journey with Rick Grimes and the gang. We're going to talk the good, the bad, and sometimes the downright frustrating. Now, my wife and I normally do reactions, but since Jen and I had seen at least up to season 4 on our own, prior to us even getting together, it made us think about how we wanted to handle it if we were to do a reaction. Like, do we do a rewatch up to season 4? Do we start right when we're starting to watch episodes that neither of us had seen? But ultimately, we decided to just watch it on our own. We started the whole thing over. And plus, we also just need a show that we can just watch independently. So that's what we've decided to do. Hopefully, though, this video will give you insights into how I feel about specific moments in specific seasons. But since it's not an in-depth, comprehensive review of every single season, if you have a question about something specific that maybe I gloss over or don't touch at all in this video, leave me a comment down below and I'll do my best to answer it as in-depth as I can. But for now, let's get into it. Season 1, man, what a breath of fresh air. Short, sweet, to the point, only 6 episodes. And I just loved how it was all about the raw, unfiltered beginning of the apocalypse. We're introduced to Rick Grimes, how he fell into this coma, and then him waking up into this nightmare. Was really cool for the audience to experience that level of what the heck is going on, what is happening, along with the character. And of course, you gotta love the dynamic between Rick and Shane, just absolute classic peak Walking Dead season 1 and 2. In a lot of ways, they remind me of Goku and Vegeta, where you have two guys with a very clear power and ideological difference that you can tell is eventually gonna come to a head. Several super memorable moments, the whole "don't dad walking inside" door. I remember seeing that when it first aired, how long has it been? 15 years ago. The horse scene walking through Atlanta. I actually went on this tour in Atlanta several years ago. It was a superhero tour, but they take you to a lot of the filming locations in Atlanta where they film these specific scenes, and they would show you the clip of the episode on a TV monitor right where we're seeing it in person. I remember thinking that was really cool. I think they actually have a Walking Dead tour now. They just incorporated that into the superhero tour where they filmed some Marvel stuff. Anyways, the show made it pretty clear from the jump that they were willing to kill off main characters, major characters, so I thought that was pretty cool. It keeps you on your toes thinking that nobody really has plot armor, except for maybe Rick. The finale was cool with Dr. Jenner at the CDC. I did feel that Dr. Jenner's whole locking them in, we're gonna have this mass suicide together as a show of mercy. I felt like that was maybe a little bit forced, only to give our main group some sort of conflict that they had to get out of for the finale. The one major takeaway, which is quaint now, but when Dr. Jenner whispers into Rick's ear that everyone's infected, and we don't actually find out what he said until later in season 2. Then we get to season 2, which I appreciate a lot more now in retrospect, having rewatched it recently. The pace is still relatively slow. We're introduced to Herschel's farm, but I feel like in some ways that was kind of the point of the season, just the show being focusing really just on this farm the whole season and seeing how two different groups are dealing with the very onset of the zombie apocalypse, the walker-ocalypse. And looking back on it now, it's really nice to see these people, Herschel and his family, still trying to hold on to their humanity. Herschel still believed that the walkers weren't actually dead, they were just sick people. It did a good job of highlighting how different groups of people were coping with this new world. The search for Sophia did drag on, and it probably did add to the eventual reveal where the barn doors open, they kill all the walkers, and in Herschel's mind, killing all of his family. And then you see Sophia walk out as a walker. That was really good. Daryl really begins to start to shine in this moment, becoming the fan favorite that we all know and love today. Shane becomes way more unhinged. If you remember, he purposely killed Otis at the hospital, and then eventually leading up to Rick having to kill his best friend forever. And shortly after that, we get the big bombshell that if you die at all, whether you've been bit or scratched or whatever, you're going to come back as a walker. And they were laying those seeds down. There was a scene where Rick and Shane are see these two police officers or security guards or something. And they're they don't have any bites. How are they walkers? The season ends with the farm being overrun, our main group being pretty fractured and broken off. But a lot of characters that we have gotten to know over time die off. R.I.P. Dale. And then the world expands when we start getting into seasons 3 and 4, where I felt like this is where the show starts to get noticeably darker. And I really feel like season 3 and particularly season 4 is when the shift changes from surviving the walkers to surviving other people. We get our introduction to the first real human antagonist in the Governor. We get awesome new characters like Michonne and the return of a super unhinged Merle from season 1, Daryl's brother. We get some really devastating moments too, like the death of Lori as she gives birth to Shane's baby. And then, you know, not only Carl having to put her down, but then when they return to like the scene, a zombie has like completely, Walker, excuse me, has completely eaten her, and there's like bits of Lori's hair coming out of his teeth. And then Rick has a complete mental breakdown shortly after that. The showdown with the Governor was pretty cool to see unfold. And season 4 is where I initially fell off the show. I felt like the show was becoming a lot slower, especially since there were so many fractured groups that we were kind of taking turns focusing on. And I was really, honestly, less interested in the group versus group dynamic and not like group surviving the walkers. I was kind of just more drawn to that survival type show of season 1 and 2 and how the group is supposed to live and move on in this new world. And then, season 3, we get introduced to Tyrese, who would become like one of my favorite characters in the whole show. And I think that the show, at least at this point, was trying to have like one character that would maintain some level of humanity from the past. Originally, it was Dale, and when he died, and I think it kind of became Tyrese's job to uphold some sort of moral compass. We had a whole flu storyline in season 4 that I felt like was just a way to try and give some type of conflict with the group until the Governor would eventually return. I don't even know what to say about Carol. Wow, her change was like really drastic, and then she kind of goes back, and I don't know what people think about her, but she was like all over the place through the course of this show for me. Oh yeah, she killed the sick people and lit them on fire. Remember that was a whole thing? There's one episode in particular in this season that is, I think, one of the more popular or at least more famous episodes with the two girls, Lizzie and Mika. Look at the flowers, you know?
Just look at the flowers, Lizzie.
It was dark, it was disturbing, and I feel like it was one of the first moments that I felt the show was using shock value for the sake of using shock value. I would say that probably some of the Lori birth stuff and then getting eaten by the walker also kind of falls into that category. It felt less like a meaningful part of the story and like an episode of growth for the characters, and more that it was just trying to torture the characters and depress the audience for this, just for the sake of it. I'm a little torn on it because I do like how it's this self-contained story, but it was one of the first of many more moments to come where the show starts to prioritize depressing and torture over compelling storytelling. But the conclusion to this season, the Governor finally dies and our group is once again scattered. I did enjoy some of the split up group stuff. I do think that there were some highs in that, like Beth and Daryl being together, but I do think the split up group arc went on a little bit too long. It was just a long, drawn out road to terminus. Oh, also, we're introduced to other characters like Abraham and Rosita, and I swear, the first time I saw Rosita, the first thing that went into my head was, is that Susie Crabgrass from Ned's Declassified School Survival Guide? I don't know if you guys are getting that reference, but it sure as heck was. I just hope Ned survived the apocalypse too. Season 5, I thought, starts off with a bang. The terminus twist was really cool with them all being cannibals, and I thought the escape was really intense. There's definitely some more of that torture porn that I was talking about. There's this really brutal scene where they take Rick and some of the group and a couple of red shirt characters and they line them up at this like trough, and you have one guy who takes a bat and like hits them from behind, and then another dude who goes and like slits their throat so they bleed out into it. And for me, I don't know if I'm just getting I think I blame my kids, because now that I have children, I think I'm just like, I don't feel like this stuff would have bothered me so much in TV, but like I was like, this is tough to watch for me now. This season also gives us the death of Beth, and then my personal favorite up to this point, which was Tyrese. He also dies this season. It was a shame to see them go, but then we're introduced to the oasis that is Alexandria, a safe community with a different set of problems. And then we get to season 6, where I feel like it really hits the ground running with this massive Walker herd storyline where they're trying to sort of steer them away from Alexandria. We begin to hear the legend of Negan, a powerful and charismatic leader that rules through fear. And I think the show built up that tension of like seeing him for the first time really, really well. Oh yeah, we're also introduced to the kingdom and this fake medieval king, which I can't really take seriously. I have come to like King Ezekiel, but I thought that medieval way of speaking and the way that he had his group of the kingdom was just really, really lame, especially since at this point we're really only like 2 years into the apocalypse. I'm basing that based on Judith's age, like when she was born, and then 2, maybe 3 years, but it hasn't been like decades. So to me, it was very clear that it was just like this dude who we find out worked at a zoo, and given this chance to start something new, he's like, you know what? I'm just gonna pretend to be this, and we're gonna just have fun, and it's gonna be make-believe. Like when Carol first saw him, was pretty much my interpretation too, where it's just like, this is just nonsense. And then she ends up shacking with him anyway, so it doesn't matter. I put on here the entire lead up to Negan's introduction in the finale was a masterclass in tension. There's this moment where Rick and the group are trying to get to Hilltop, and they keep being intercepted by Negan's group, and every time they're intercepted, Negan's group just gets larger and larger and larger, but it put into perspective just how powerful this new group was, and something that Rick was really underestimating. And then there's the season 6 finale. Oh boy. Now, I did know about Glenn's death beforehand. I couldn't avoid the spoilers when it was coming out, and it was kind of known. And there was that fake out death in the previous season, and now we're getting his real death. But actually watching it unfold, because I never saw the scene, was something else. It was pretty tough.
I'll find you!
I think the show was really pushing it here, and I get that they were trying to establish just how much of a threat Negan is, but I still felt like it was just a little too much in the way that they did it. And I'm also just really torn on the death of Glenn. He was just such a core part of the show. But not only that, but I just felt like there was a lot more to his story, a lot more that they could have done with him down the line. But I also understand that he does die in that manner in the comics. So, and we get a break, and we don't actually see Glenn die, I don't think actually until the season 7 beginning. We see Abraham die in season 6, but it kind of ends there. But we begin season 7 with some more torture porn, with Negan absolutely breaking down Rick's spirit. And then we get the introduction to these trash heap garbage people, which was a complete miss for me. Much like the Kingdom, I think that their weird Kevin from The Office way of speaking was super unnecessary and just felt dumb.
Enough to fight your fight, us nearly twice. Our guns to take, our deal still on.
Why waste time? Say lot word when few word do trick.
We get some interesting, Negan thumb on the group type of situations where Rick is having to give them half of whatever it is that they can scavenge. But then we eventually get into season 8 where there's this all-out war with Negan, which I thought was really cool. But then Carl dies. This was, without a doubt, in my opinion, the worst creative choice the show had ever made in its entire run. Now, I understand that not a lot of people liked Carl at this point. Jen wasn't really all that torn up about him dying, for example. But for me, it's all about the potential. It's who he was supposed to be down the line. And in the comics, Carl is the future. He's what it's all about. He's like Rick's main motivation, like keeping Carl safe. And I did look up kind of after the fact that there were some rumors about Chandler Riggs, the actor who plays Carl, like him becoming 18 and maybe would be entitled to that 18-year-old actor money. He had bought a house close to the filming locations. He was sort of blindsided by it. None of that has been confirmed. A lot of that is speculation, and the showrunner insists that it was just a creative choice on their part, nothing else. But the end result is the same. Just so much potential wasted. I did enjoy some of the twists that were in this season. It seemed like this season had a lot of twists going on, with Dwight kind of helping but not helping, but then actually really helping, Eugene being turned, I am Negan, but then also rigging the Savior's bullets in this final confrontation. And then when Rick actually gets the chance to kill Negan, he lets them live as a symbol of their growing society and their movements back to civilization. But really, the showrunners just wanted to be able to utilize Negan in the future. So they see his potential, just not Carl's. And this brings me to where I am currently, which is about 25, maybe like 30% through season 9. I've seen Rick leave at this point. Maggie is pretty much gone. There's a significant time jump where we see Judith a good bit older, which I really enjoyed. I did read that Andrew Lincoln decided to leave the show with the Carl situation being a major factor, but also because he wanted to spend more time with his real life family back in England, because he's been doing this show for friggin' years now. I will say that I think the show is just a little too convoluted currently. We got all these different communities going on. So many new characters are introduced that I'm supposed to care about. So many of our heavy hitting leading actors are gone. So really, I just miss the simple focused survival stories of seasons 1, 2, and 3. And the dynamic and conflict between Rick and the governor is about as complex and convoluted as I think the show needed to get. I've seen some of the new antagonists of season 9. I don't know if they're going to be in season 10. I'm guessing so. But the Whisperers, I haven't really made up my mind about them yet. They're weird. Their structure is weird, but they don't seem to be nearly as much a threat as the group has faced before. I could be wrong, and I don't know what's going to happen. But I am struggling to continue on at this point, if I'm being honest. But I know I must, and I will see it through. And of course, there are about a bajillion spin-offs that I don't know how we're going to work together. I know Negan and Maggie have a show together. I know Rick comes back, and he and Michonne have a show together. And I don't know how they work all that in. Daryl has his own show. There's Fear the Walking Dead. I do have like technical questions about how the zombies who are supposed to be having rotting flesh could be as prominent as they are. I mean, almost a decade later now, I just feel like they would have naturally died off. Even if you could argue that the infection like slows the decay process, surely they must still be decaying, with the exception, I guess, of new zombies being formed, but surely they wouldn't be as prolific. And I think the real meta answer is, well, if we really killed off all the zombies through natural causes over time, we wouldn't have a show. Despite some frustrations, I will say overall, I enjoyed my rewatch for sure, but also seeing the new stuff. The show has some incredible high points. I do think it has some sluggishness and drudgery in pretty significant chunks throughout that you kind of just have to get through. I think that they could have used more wisdom in which characters they decide to kill off, because they kill off Glenn because that's comic accurate, where I felt like, oh, it's very clear they could have done more with him, but at least they're honoring the comics. And then Carl, who has arguably more potential than Glenn did, and they decide to kill him off despite what the comics had. I think Negan is a truly great antagonist that carried the show through some rough patches, but my guy has some serious plot armor. And like I said, this isn't a comprehensive review, just some of my thoughts on the seasons as a whole. But make sure you let me know, what are some of your favorite and least favorite moments of The Walking Dead? Try not to spoil anything. I only have like 2.5 seasons left to go to finish off the main series. If you do have any specific questions or things I didn't touch on at all that you're curious about what I think, leave me a comment. I'll do my best to go through them. And then as a funny add-on, if you want to see us react to something, Jen and I did watch the Robot Chicken Walking Dead special and had a really good time with that. We're going to put a shortened, edited version on YouTube, but if you'd like to watch the extended, like full 20-minute episode, it's going to be exclusively on Patreon. As usual, like this video, subscribe, all that normal YouTube stuff. I appreciate you guys so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this video in light of a reaction. At least you're getting me talking about it or giving a review. But that's it for now. I'll catch you in the next video, everyone. Take care.